I'll often start with like a drum break that's like, okay, this is the feeling. And then I'll kind of recreate the groove with one shots myself.
Yeah, that sounds so good.
You can press a button and it'll do it, but it'll sound crappy. And if you just go in with your hands and you do it, it'll sound amazing. So did it take a couple hours for each song? Like, yeah, but it made it way better.
There's all these percussion layers that really give it like a life. And that's that cross rhythm with the clave that is, it's kind of basically playing in 3/4 while the song is in 4/4. So it creates this constant tension, which again, I think fits into what you're talking about psychologically.
Yes.
Where it makes you want to dance, but it's like an uneasy way. So if you play that with the drums, which are in 4/4, you know, it really, to me, it just makes you immediately want to dance.
Yeah, and it's exactly like what the material of the song is about. It's like you're in love, but something's a little weird. Like you're dancing,
Totally.
but something's a little off.
Yeah, it's like you're dancing, but you can't stop.
You can't
you're
stop,
like, someone help.
exactly. Yeah.
Like, ah.
I think for this, I used the basic drum sampler on Logic as well. When you start programming it, playing it like just on the keyboard, but you add glide to the sampler, it sort of changes the attack on the drums. So it's basically like gliding up and down between hi-hat and clap and kick. So it's doing what it would do on a synth, except it's just making every drum slightly bendy. And I think it sounds really nice. I do that quite a lot to sort of give some sort of newness to old drum machine sounds. So it ends up sounding like this. It's kind of not very noticeable until you take it off, and it can actually tell what it's doing. But yeah, and then I just ran it through distortion and this thermal thing, which adds it's just like a bunch of sort of wideners and effect things that sometimes I use, but I find often that actually when you're trying to mix something, it kind of does too much. And when I take it into like a mixing session with David, say I'll do a stem with thermal on and with one without, because we can recreate it in a much more like natural way that's not messing with the audio too much.
Right.
So this is thermal on, and this is it off. It's basically making it louder with drive, and this has a sub thing on, but I've taken all the bass out of it anyway. But I think it's probably also on the kick. I know, I took it off the kick because it made it too much for when I was mixing, but it does sound good if you're just listening in headphones.
We recorded a drum machine, it's the CR8000, and then it's basically all just like processed and chopped drum machine instead of like a bunch of different samples. But so to go through, you know, this is really like the basis of it all. Very simple, kind of classic, has that like youthful feeling to it though in the rhythm. But it started in let's see if there's anything on these, kind of not really outside some EQ and stuff. But to just get here, you know, it was just really some minor effects, some distortion and like gating. I think it's just big things, but so it sounds super different. And then Devil Lock is just something I kind of put on everything. That kind of cranks it up, pulls it all together a bit more. And then Decimort just makes it sound, I don't know, messed up in a way we love.
Cooks. Because one of the things that I like on it is there's this kind of softness to it as well.
Yeah, totally.
You know, so that it's there, it's consistent, but it doesn't annihilate you.
Yeah, it's not like beating you over the head.
And we sort of had more annihilating versions, and it was just
way
this
more
thing of being like, we have to let the song breathe, you know.
And I think just like from there, just embracing the groove and kind of, we have this little like percussion loop over it too. Kind of sounds like it's like breathing or something. A lot of like sound shift. It's kind of like a favorite to mine. Sound shift is like the best plugin ever. But like this was originally like Like that's the original drum machine clap. Then we pitched it way down. Spread it out to the side. And then some EQ. But like just kind of doing basic stuff, I think, with the drum part to make it lift like just barely enough. Again, like using as few tools possible.
I would love to hear the drums isolated.
Yeah.
Because the sound of them is fucking the tits.
Well, this is where we went
there's
from...
better language I can use, sorry. Bam, boom. So good.
Worth mentioning as well, this is with a tiny few edits here and there. This is actually one take. She did a bunch of takes, but we ended up running with one take. She played this beat constantly throughout the whole song. We could have just looped it because it's one groove the whole time. And bless her, she just smashed it all the way through and like got all the dynamics. And
yeah, she's a freak. She's a freak.
So it's actually a very dry, punchy sound into it. Just a little bit of reverb at the top there, which is doing some of the work. But knowing Kira wanted that big explosive sound, something that we had just as a constant in the sessions was just obviously some overheads. Throw some of that in just now. And in particular, some room mics. And one thing that they had at Light Show that we loved was this AEA ribbon mic. It's like a stereo ribbon mic. And we just left it in the room the whole time, kind of just always on, whatever we were recording, be it vocals or keyboards across the room. Because it just gets this very particular sense of the space. It's not a big studio, but it's very reflective in its own way. Lots of wood and glass and things in it. You leave a mic like that just on, and it just seems to capture all of the air that's moving around it, and lends itself very well to kind of being squashed with some compression and things. And that's kind of the bulk of the character that you hear is that microphone.
Amazing.
This is one thing that I thought was interesting to show is that some of the initial elements that I was playing with before me and John sort of assembled all these elements into the beat was using a like Echo Boy on this kind of like, it's basically just like a impulse with a few like little rim samples. And then basically, one thing that we love doing is kind of just running, hitting record and then just generating tons of stuff that we can then chop later. And chopping things as audio, I think is really cool because then you're kind of you're constantly committing. So that basically running that little like impulse thing into Echo Boy and then warping it, sort of like decapitating it a little bit and then like swinging it to the swing of the track was one of the earliest things that I remember doing. And then it was like sort of building up like a mixture of MIDI shakers, some live kind of like more lush shakers, again like keeping everything really tight. I really wanted like an Armin kind of break or a jungle think break because this is a classic and we haven't really used that in the track before. So that was kind of the sort of basis, and then we started building up some more of the crunched like offbeat hats. This is the rim. And basically, we loved it feeling kind of crunchy, the rims being pitched down and like emphasizing like the note of the rim, so it was really tonal. Mm-hmm. And so then we were playing with like this offbeat sort of feeling, like really distorting things, like crunching things, committing to audio again, pitching down, but it being a very specific kind of like aesthetic of beat felt exciting to us.
This episode is being supported by Tape It, the iPhone app made specifically for musicians. If you, like many of our guests, use voice memos, then switching to Tape It is an obvious choice. And now, Tape It has layering. This means you can record over your voice notes, try out top lines, stack harmonies, build up instruments, jam with yourself, and so much more. Layering is such an exciting addition to Tape It's long list of features to help you stay creative and organized, including the ability to record straight from your lock screen, set markers, add notes, and add photos of settings. You can easily import your old voice notes, sync to the cloud, and create shared playlists with co-writers and bandmates. So, head to the link below to install Tape It and use the promo code TAPENOTES to receive a whopping 20% off Tape It Pro. And now, back to the episode.
The
drums are enhanced by these kind of like tricks that you can use to sort of enhance the stereo image. There's a tape delay trick here. Let's see if we can pull this down here, where basically the delay time is 0 milliseconds, and it's only got the sort of wet of the dry and wet up. And therefore, all you're hearing there is just this really quick delay. And if I were to up the feedback, it would make it start feeding back with itself if it gets up past a certain threshold. There you go. But it's just enough below, you get that sound feeding back against itself. And because it's in a stereo image, it has this kind of like hi-fi effect to it, and you can actually control sort of what frequencies it's sort of feeding back at, if you want it low or just high. But when it gets high, it starts like feeding back in that quite harsh, higher frequencies. I was just interested in it, in that like that world.
Very mechanical.
Yes, that's sort of one of the things that makes that sound. And that sort of layered up then just gives it this kind of wider and kind of just strange, like artificial industrial feel there. And there was the sort of layered sound there. Just doubling that. Just that happens once in the track.
So this drum loop, or not loop, this is, I don't know if you can hear that, but that's drums through a bunch of filters. There's some smack attack on that. There's some decapitator on that to give it some crunch. There's some harmonics processing with a filter called Saturn that I really like. It's run through a mic emulator called King's Microphone, which makes it like sound super old and grimy. Those are live drums. That's, I think, Rob, right? Was this Rob playing? Mm-hmm. So that's Rob playing like a full
Rob
kit.
Humphreys.
And when you couple, that like live drum sound that's just crunched to shit through a bunch of plugins, plus like some very, like clean sounding samples, you get this wonderful kind of, crunchiness, but also
it's like a hybrid.
Yeah, you get this hybrid nice sound. So, like here's with some of the loops that are going on. Sorry, with the samples at the same time, and then throw in some of the other stuff that's going on there. There's some extra snares. I have like a ton of snare samples that are all playing at once, actually. So.
And then you would be adding these all in after the session that you had?
All that is added like months after. And in this case, I think over a year after, when I finally did like a second re-record of the whole thing. And we're then taking parts and little pieces from the studio. Like Rob was also playing these shakers, which I'll add in now. Right there. So yeah, it's that's, that doesn't sound like much, but that's like already probably like 15 layers of drums and samples, and some stuff that was added a year later, some stuff from the session, some live drums. And that's only a small scattering. I haven't even like added in the hats. There's also these. Those types of sounds. So yeah, there's a lot, spread across time and space. There's a lot going on here.
Let's just talk about it real quick. So these are the drums of Valentine.
I was slamming that snare.
And then there's some things about the drum sound from my house that Danielle liked.
Oh yeah.
And one of them was
the snare. Right.
The snare. So we actually sampled our own snare.
Yeah. That sounds so good.
So this is a trigger of the snare from my house. And
I feel like sometimes I really do get like, demoitis when it comes to a drum sound, especially a snare. And there was something about that demo that I missed with the Valentine drums, but I think.
And then additionally, Danielle was like, after we were listening back, Danielle was like, I still miss the way the drums sounded that were recorded in this room. So then we reamped the Valentine drums through we set up a couple mics just in this room right behind us. And so this is the drum reamp. So this is the sound of the drums that were recorded at Valentine, just playing in this room, to sort of recapture that atmosphere that Danielle liked.
Don't need to be right. I left you the keys. I left on the lights.
It's interesting. I mean, what were you doing to the sound to record those sounds? I mean, are you miking it a particular way, or what was the magic ingredient that made the drums recorded in Rostam's room better than the ones at Valentine? I mean, what was the big difference, and how had you done that?
Well, I have these two KU3A microphones, and I'll just isolate them because actually we did end up for this breakdown section, we used the old drum sound, which I'll
That's
play.
what I remember.
I'll play here. This is that old drum sound. And I think a lot of the way that I get a drum sound is with these KU3A. They're called KU rooms in this. So these are two ribbon mics that are about like 6 to 8 feet apart, or like maybe 4 to 8 feet apart.
But again, slamming on that snare.
And then we can hear the same mics at Valentine. You can hear how they're a little different. This definitely gives you that wide stereo image of drums, which I always love. But you can also hear how the room at Valentine is kind of like, it's especially designed to like record like big band. So it kind of like kills a lot of the atmosphere. There's way more atmosphere in this room.
Also, you're always telling me like, or sometimes like I don't play the hi-hat when I'm hitting the snare, or I like, I play the hi-hat a little harder when I'm not playing any other drum.
Yeah.
Right on there.
I did a lot of drum comping on this record, and like I fell right into that trap of like, I can open this up and show you how many edits there are in the drums. Oh my God.
Well, Marinelli was just feeling it.
He was loving it.
Like,
but it was like just kind of chopping it up and like, look at all these edits. But again, that was one where it was like, what's the shortcut? How do I do this fast? How do I, press a button and it quantizes it? And it's like, you can press a button and it'll do it, but it'll sound crappy. And if you just go in with your hands and you do it, it'll sound amazing. So, did it take a couple hours for each song? Like, yeah, but it made it way better. So yeah, just worth doing.
One little thing I like to do actually is, I've got this like hat here, which is just, I don't even know what it is, but as a separate kind of, on another audio track, I've got the same hat, but running through like a vocoder, and you can set that to noise and mess with the release, and it just adds movement a little bit. So I've still got the other hat underneath, but it just little things like that just you don't necessarily notice. But I like doing that quite a lot with a lot of my tunes. Other parts of the drums, I mean, it's just built up of lots of different one shots really. There's this clap which is layered with these. They're just all little sounds that...
Do you know what you would start with? Like if you've got your sample, your vocal sample, and then you're thinking, right, what am I going to put to that?
What I'll often do is I'll start with I'll often start with like a drum break or something that has like the groove that I want. That's like, okay, this is the feeling, and then I'll kind of recreate the groove with one shots myself. So like I probably will have found a 4 to the floor loop that's just easy, and I can slot in and I can go, right, that's the right groove, because it's a faff to kind of build the whole thing and then be like, oh, this actually isn't even right. So if you can just get the right groove first, then you go, okay, cool, that's the template, and then from there I can kind of get rid of that but rebuild that drum loop, but with more interest in one shots. I do that quite a lot. So I'm not totally sure what I did with this, but that's something that I would do a lot, and just build it up from there, and then just add there's a little rim thing. I just finding interesting samples and sounds that just keep it more like it's just lots of different things happening.